What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Artist Series, where we talk about the biggest artists in the world and what we can learn from them. You'll notice that I've changed the format quite a bit, the main difference being that we're going to focus on one song at a time. This gives me a chance to do more than one episode a month, and it makes it easier to take requests from you guys. So feel free to comment below for suggestions. Now, without further ado, let's take a listen to Bad Guy, which I haven't heard yet. I'm familiar with Billy, of course, but this will be a first impressions video. So here we go. So that was Bad Guy. I like it. I think it's a really great video. The song, I think is a little unremarkable compared to her other releases, but I think it's a really good image song. So it shows us who she is as a character and how she fits into the whole pop scene. Because to me, the whole message of this video is, the pop scene is kind of this really clean-cut, really friendly and happy, perfect little world. And here I come stumbling into it all and, shitting on everyone's cake. So that's kind of, that was a very visual metaphor, but that's kind of how I see this whole music video and the lyrics as well. So let's talk about the music here first. Harmonically, it's a super simple chord progression of 1-1-4-5, I think.
White shirt, now red, my bloody nose sleeping. You're on your tippy toes creeping around like no one knows. Think you're so criminal.
At the end, we have this little separate piece, which is, I think, just on the one. Some super simple chords here. 1-1-4-5 is not, like, by any stretch of the imagination, complicated chord progression. And even melodically, this is a really simple song. I mean, her entire melodies are on the minor 3, so on the third degree of the minor scale.
White shirt, now red, my bloody nose sleeping. You're on your tippy toes.
And she's adding in some backing vocals later on, which add the 5th.
Creeping around like no one knows. Think you're so criminal.
And later on, the 1. So, above that, so the octave.
Bruises on both my knees for you. Don't say thank you. Oh, please, I do.
And then we got the So You're a Tough Guy section, which is kind of like the pre-chorus of the song, I guess.
So you're a tough guy, like you really rough guy. Just can't get enough guy, just always so puff guy.
The melody is also really simple. I mean, it revolves around the 1 here, and then once we hit that 4 and 5 chords, it moves up to, it starts revolving around the 5 of the scale. So it's kind of just following the chords. So really, this whole thing is super basic in terms of music.
So you're a tough guy, like you really rough guy. Just can't get enough guy, just always so puff guy. I'm that bad type, make your mama sad type, make your girlfriend mad type, might seduce your dad type.
So what does make this so interesting as a song? Why is it so appealing to a lot of people? And to me as well. I think the sound of this is just really cool. That's really what it comes down to. It's the sound, it's the production, and it's her performance of it all. You see, the thing is, 20, 30 years ago, we would never have had these songs, which is why this sounds so much like now, This sounds so much like 2019, because it's using a vocal, a way of singing, which we haven't seen before, really. And that is singing really close to the mic in a really low energy fashion. Why didn't we see this earlier? Because it's really difficult to replicate that live. Because live, this kind of singing is drowned out by the music. Now, they've done a couple of things to work with that. First of all, in the studio, you can just gain up everything as much as you want to. And they surely have done that. There's a lot of compression on the vocals, and they double-tracked it left and right, so it seems even closer to us. So they basically what they did is they recorded the vocal twice and panned one to the left, one to the right. There might even be one in the center. I'm not quite sure, but it's definitely softer. So it definitely has more of a side effect than it has a middle with added sides effect. So that is how they did it in terms of the production. And her vocal performance is so low energy. It's so below what we're used to from singers. And also in terms of the arrangement, the producers have kind of worked around this way of performing, in that the whole music track is basically just a bass and drums. And the drums are not aggressive at all. I mean, it's like snaps and like a super simple kick drum. But that's really it. And I mean, in the chorus, we get like this little sine wavy type of synthesizer there, but it's all super basic, super simple sounds.
Duh.
But the trick here is, in terms of the arrangement, that with the bass and the little bit of drums that we have, those all kind of stay out of the way of Billie, because you know, they're all low frequency material, and Billie can sit on top of that with her really breathy, high frequency voice, because breath has a lot of high frequencies. So that's how they managed to get around it, and I think that's really interesting about the song. And that's kind of her whole thing, right? That's her whole shtick, is this kind of vocal performance. So that's it pretty much for the music. I don't really have much to say about it. In terms of structuring, it's all fairly basic. In the chorus, we have one more little cool thing where she delivers her tagline, "I'm the bad guy," where she probably doubled her vocals as a whisper, and then they put a tremolo on top of that. Or alternatively, maybe they just doubled the track, the vocal performance, put a vocoder on top of that, which kind of makes it sound like she was whispering it, and then put a tremolo on that.
I'm the bad guy.
I think it's a really cool little effect, and it's the only part where we have another instrument in the song, which is this really simple sine wave synthesizer, which is kind of taking up the space as her vocals leave the arrangement. We need something to fill that up so it stays interesting. So that's already it for the music. I don't really have much more to say about it. It's a fairly straightforward song. It's mostly about the performance and attitude of the song. So let's look at the music video together, and I'm just going to highlight a couple of things here and there that I think are interesting and that kind of speak to Billie's image and what they're probably trying to do, what the marketing team has thought up, what her attitude brings to the picture. So here we go. First of all, this whole video starts with a yellow screen. Yellow is not the first color you would think of if you think of, you know, dark, almost gothic Billie Eilish, right? So it's a funny choice, but it makes a lot of sense once we start watching the video. First of all, she breaks through that yellow. That's almost like a metaphor for saying like, hey, you know, I'm stopping with all this madness. You know, I'm here to end all of this. And in the background, we can see blue, which is a complementary color to yellow. Her hair, obviously, is this turquoise, which is also complementary. So we have a lot of contrast in here. And contrast really is a good keyword here, because that's really what this whole video is about, I think. So we have these really sterile backgrounds, and everyone else except Billie behaves in a kind of sterile fashion, right? We have this guy here in the black leather jacket who like barely moves a muscle, who doesn't really do anything. And then we have Billie, who's like super emotional, super high energy in a way when she's dancing, but also she's looking as if she as if she's dead or something, right? Then we got this image here where she's wearing like a white blouse or a white t-shirt, and she has a nosebleed. We have the background, which is completely sterile, completely fake. It's a perfect background, so to say, and I think this is almost like a metaphor for the music industry, and it's kind of telling us like, hey, you know what, this whole music industry, the whole charts are full of perfect music. It's an illusion, you know, none of this is real. And here comes Billie to bleed on everyone's white tennis socks, right? So that's kind of the metaphor that I'm seeing here, that she's bringing in the dirt, she's bringing in the imperfection, and that's kind of what makes her so special. And also, did you notice that the yellow jumpers she's wearing here, the pants look a little bit like a straitjacket? I just thought that was an interesting little detail. And this picture here as well with the knees, you know, we have this really perfect background, which is all like one color, and it's a beautiful gradient. And then we have these knees, which look, you know, it's a ton of different colors. There's no makeup on them whatsoever. This is a statement, guys. You know, this is saying like, hey, you know, she's bringing in the dirt, she's bringing in the realism here. Then we got the big guys in all the different colored shirts, and her in the background in all black. So there's a lot of contrast there as well. And obviously, you know, their physique is quite different than hers. So there's the contrast there. Then we have her smearing blood all over her face, which is a horror trope. And speaking of horror tropes, a couple of seconds later, we go into the chorus, and there we see her like, you know, doing the crab walk and doing all sorts of things that we've seen before in horror movies. It's even sped up a little bit, which has a little bit of that the black and white era kind of horror movie flair to me. You know, it gives me a little bit of that sense. And then we have this image of her feeding a guy breakfast cereal in a red desert. What the hell is that supposed to mean? I mean, it's obviously green screened pretty badly, but I don't think that was the intention here. I mean, it's obviously a very dominant kind of posture that she's in here. you know, I think it's also playing with the idea of like breakfast cereal is such an innocent thing, and that's kind of what she's playing with. Again, it's that contrast. And also there seems to be something about milk, you know, because she's dressed all black, and then we have the white milk set against that. And there was this other video that she did, I forgot what the song was called, where she was drinking this black milk. So I kind of see some ties in with that, maybe. And then we got the severed heads in the bags, which is just, you know, a little bit of horror here to just spice things up a little bit. So, folks, that's it. That's all my thoughts on Billie Eilish's Bad Guy, which I think is, yeah, still a really cool song. It's not my favorite of hers. I think it's one of her less interesting ones, but it's certainly, as an image song, I think it really does the trick. You know, there's every artist every once in a while needs an image song to just show people, like, this is who I am. Understand, this is my image. And Ariana has Thank You Next and Seven Rings, and Billie Eilish has Bad Guy, to just make it super clear to us how she fits on the map and what she does differently than everyone else. And that's already it. Thanks so much for watching, folks. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. If you want to send me songs or ask me questions, you can do that over on Patreon. And don't forget to comment below which song you would like to do next on this series. Take care, folks. Stay fatty.